and a chart. The first kingdom, the Holy Roman Empire, created a one-world government under the authority of the papacy. At some point, its dominion was taken away, and God's people were called out of Babylon across the sea to the promised land. At the end of the period of the Second Kingdom, in 1798, the first kingdom is destroyed, being the Holy Roman Empire. There's an increase of knowledge, industrial revolution, and the fourth kingdom, the lamb-like beast, is founded as a republic. From that time, when the third kingdom comes into power under Napoleon and his Napoleonic Empire, the church is reorganized, there's a falling away, and that continues until there's a change of government in the fourth kingdom. And now the fourth kingdom begins to speak like a dragon. And some point towards the end of the fourth kingdom, the image of the beast is formed and the church is destroyed through persecution. And so we see the parallels. Babel was the type of Babylon which foreshadowed the Holy Roman Empire and the rule of the man of sin. After Babel, we have Elam, which foreshadowed Medo-Persia, which again foreshadowed divided Europe under the Reformation, and again all the same prophetic specifications are met. It comes from the east, it's an allied kingdom, the Catholic states were first, but the Protestant states become strongest, Rome was preserved and the Protestants were called out. The third kingdom, Egypt and Greece, which had its cultural capital in Egypt, they are all replayed again in the history of modern Europe. And we know that today in modern Europe, our thinking is Greek. We think like Greeks. We don't think like Romans. We don't think like Persians or like Babylonians. We think like Greeks. Secular mindset. Again, modern Europe, Napoleon came from the West. The first great king, Napoleon. And after that, the kingdom was taken away, not to his posterity. Kingdom split into the upper and lower, or north and south. There's an increase in science. Rome is destroyed. The church is reorganized. And under the fourth kingdom, it comes from the north. It's ruthless and proud. It will destroy the church, harass the saints, and it will create the image of the beast. So we see that prophetic history is fulfilled not once, not twice, but 3 times. Actually, it's repeated 3.5 times, because after the lamb-like beast, Revelation tells us about the final kingdom. Now, the Bible tells us about the final kingdom that will be ruling over the earth at the time of Christ's second coming. And so we read in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 3 to 9. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. And now ye know what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work, only he who now letteth will let, until he be taken out of the way. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders. Now, the Christians in the first century all understood these verses to be speaking of Rome, the fourth kingdom, and that the Antichrist would not arise until imperial Rome had been swept away. Yet that was 1,600 years ago, and these verses are talking about the coming of Christ. So that same history will be repeated in the very last days, when the fourth kingdom is again swept away to make way for the 10 kings that rule 1 hour with the beast. And speaking of the rise of this final kingdom, we read in Revelation 13:3, and I saw one of his heads as it was wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And we know that this beast comes to power through the aid of the beast with 2 lamb-like horns. And we read about this final kingdom in Revelation 17:12-14. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but received power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. For God has put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. Now Revelation describes this kingdom as a woman riding a beast. Again, the man of sin will be exalted above God. There will be a new world order. The world will be subdued militarily. There will be a common language, which in this case is English. Again, the mother and the child will be worshipped. Sunday will be worshipped. And the Sunday laws will be enacted. And the saints will be persecuted. Now that history will repeat again is not just a nice theory that we've developed. In fact, it's something far more profound, as we shall see. The picture on the left is a picture from the Middle Ages of the Tower of Babel half built. Now, the European community, when they were trying to advertise their establishment of the European Union, they came out with a poster that said, Europe many tongues, one voice. And again, if you look at the picture, ignoring the satanic pentagrams above it, you notice that it looks almost identical to this famous painting of the half-built Babel. Their aim is to rebuild the Holy Roman Empire, which they know, and we now know, represents Babel, just like Nebuchadnezzar rebuilt Babel. They are rebuilding Babel. They know it, and they're proud of it. Some more evidence of this. Again, on the left is that same picture from the Middle Ages of Babel, half built. And on the right-hand side is a picture of the European Parliament. And you'll notice that while it's a modern building, it's made to look like a half-finished Tower of Babel. Now, if this isn't enough evidence of the fact, guess what sculpture sits outside of that same building? Well, it's a picture of a woman riding a beast. This isn't just a coincidence, because if we look at another sculpture outside of the European Council building, there's another sculpture, a different one, of a woman riding a beast. And so they well know that they are preparing, once the fourth kingdom is swept away, for the final rise of Babylon. And they know that their time is soon. They know it's only half finished, but it will soon be finished. Here's another poster. This came out, front cover of Der Spiegel, which is a very well-respected German magazine. The front page titled Good Morning Europe, and again, a woman riding a beast. They know what they're doing, and they want to repeat history. They will repeat history. But we know that Babylon every time has been destroyed by kings from the east. And Daniel tells us about the stone that comes from heaven, and Revelation tells us about the king from the east. And we know that a loud cry will come. Babylon is fallen, come out of her, my people. And we read about the fall of Babylon, Revelation 16:12. And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. Who are these kings from the east that overthrow Babylon? Well, Isaiah 44:28 tells us, speaking of God, that saith to the deep, Be dry, and I will dry up thy rivers. That saith of Cyrus, He is my shepherd, and shall perform all my pleasure, even saying to Jerusalem, Thou shalt be built, and to the temple, Thy foundation shall be laid. And we know that Cyrus is a figure of the second coming of Christ and the rebuilding of the New Jerusalem. And so we come to the end of this world's history. Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness, looking for and hastening unto the coming of the day of God, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 11 to 12. And so, in summary, we see that history, prophetic history, is repeated not once, not twice, but 3.5 times. 3.5 is an important number that occurs many times in both Daniel and Revelation. And now we're at during the time at the rise of the fourth kingdom. And we know that the final movements will be rapid ones. The fourth kingdom will not last for very long, because the beast and its Babylonian kingdom is already half built. And it will only rule for one symbolic hour, and Christ will come. So what? So what if history repeats? Well, the so what is that Daniel gives us actually quite a detailed blueprint of final events in the history of the world, and we'll be looking at this blueprint in some detail in later presentations. Now, you might say, well, what about time? What about the 1260-day prophecy? What about the 2300-day prophecy? They can't repeat. Well, of course they don't repeat, because what repeats is the history, much of the history, not necessarily the time periods. So the events of history repeat. Now we know that time periods don't repeat because the time periods are specific to each era. See, under Nebuchadnezzar, Babylon ruled for 70 years. But Mystery Babylon, under the papacy, only ruled for 1,260 years. So straight away we see that there's no repetition. And we're told that the beast that rules with 10 kings, at the end, that will only rule for 1 hour. Each time Babylon has ruled is ruled for a different time period. Time will never again be a test, but in hindsight we can see that some things may take a similar amount of time to play out. So for example, Elijah prophesied for 3.5 years and Jesus' ministry lasted 3.5 years. And so there's some similarities there, but those similarities aren't a prophetic test. What's important are the events, not the time. Now, it's only the events in the history of the nations that repeat, not events in heaven. In conclusion, the thing that hath been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. Ecclesiastes 1:9. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new? It hath been already of old time, which was before us.